We're making no apologies. That's it, so that our people can have access to the land.
Life is difficult, but you must soldier on. Don't give up. If you are a coward, you don't belong here.
Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. Welcome to Simple Politics. So today I am going to speak about a very interesting interaction that I came across, and I was reading and I thought to myself, this is worth sharing. This is definitely worth sharing. So there is a gentleman or a guy who wrote a tweet, right? And when he was writing this tweet, he was criticizing, he calls it constructive criticism, pointing out the things that he doesn't like about, not things that he doesn't like about the EFF, things that he thinks they are not working in the EFF, things that are making the EFF not to grow, and things that are irrelevant. Yeah, so he was pointing out things that he thinks are irrelevant in the EFF. So it's like a constructive criticism. And Dr. Gumani came in. Hey, Dr. Gumani Chimumula, our head of research, came in. And he gave his points. That's why I was like, this is worth sharing. My God, this is worth sharing. So Dr. Chimumula came in. In you we believe and trust the doctor. And gave his points. But I think this is worth sharing because I want to get your reaction as well, because I found this very, very interesting. So Sizwe Sikamusi reflected. I actually think he reflected on the EFF's 12 years and gave his breakdown. So I want us to get into that. So Sizwe Kimamusi says this. 12 years ago, the EFF was born. And I want to break down his entire argument. So bear with me. Be patient with me, okay? Because I don't want you to miss this. Especially because I'm reading it for you. So Sizwe Sikamusi says, 12 years ago, the EFF was born. Their demands for land expropriation without compensation and the nationalization of mines, banks, and strategic industries directly challenged 2 decades of ANC, neoliberalism, and white economic dominance. Fine, meaning that he says EFF came in 12 years ago. They demanded land expropriation without compensation, nationalization of mines and banks, as we all know, according to our cardinal pillars. At the time, 12 years ago, these slogans were electrifying. Finally, someone was confronting the economic foundation of apartheid that democracy has failed to dismantle. So he's saying 12 years ago, these things of land expropriation without compensation were electrifying, where finally someone was speaking about them. Then he continues and says, but in 2025, which is this year, those same calls no longer inspire. They sound old, tired, abstract. The political energy that once made the EFF dangerous has curdled into repetition. So he says this now. Even though when EFF was born 12 years ago, the slogans were electrifying, everybody was hyped up. He says now these slogans are tired. He's referring to the land expropriation without compensation, nationalization of mines and banks. That's what he's referring. He's saying they're tired now, they're abstract. They are just like EFF used to be dangerous. Now it's like repetition, which is in the pinda way you so say they abanda basically. Okay. And then he continues and says the slogans haven't evolved, but the country has, and not for the better. People are hungry, jobless, powerless, literally and figuratively, and increasingly disconnected from the EFF ideological messaging. This disconnection is most apparent in the party's land politics. So he says this, the country has evolved into a worse status. The country is not doing well. He's saying people are hungry in Tontoni, and when the EFF starts to preach land expropriation without compensation, it doesn't really people are disconnected to this ideology of land expropriation without compensation because people are hungry. They are more focused on them being hungry now. Yeah, well. Then he continues and says, for the EFF, land is everything. It's the cornerstone of their politics, the first of their 7 cardinal pillars, and the symbolic heart of their liberation agenda. Land or death is not just a slogan, it's an identity, but there's a growth problem. Many black South Africans simply do not care much about land. So he goes on and says, the cornerstone of the EFF and the foundation, it's land. He says land is everything to the EFF. And unfortunately, many blacks today don't care about land. I don't know how true that is, but okay. This isn't because they've forgotten history or don't understand the deep injustice of land dispossession. It's just that generations of forced removals, economic exclusion, and cultural alienation have created a complex, often strained relationship between black people and the land. The EFF land politics speak to the historical wound, but frequently miss the lived reality. The EFF continues to chant land expropriation without compensation, but for many voters, the word land is no longer tied to hope or heritage. It's an abstraction and a metaphor. So again, he's explaining how EFF always is preaching land, but many blacks today or poor people, they don't they don't relate to the message of the land. They don't feel like the land can help them. Yeah, well. This helps explain why the seven cardinal pillars, once radical and urgent, now feel like a museum piece. So he says that the 7 cardinal pillars once felt urgent, but now they are just words and pieces. Pillar 1, land expropriation, sounds noble but disconnected. Pillar 2, nationalization of strategic sectors, sounds grand but increasingly feels like an empty threat, not a solution. These policies remain sacred in party rhetoric, but they are increasingly distant from the material concerns of voters. The EFF base, unemployed youth, militant leftists, and the township poor may still cheer at rallies, but belief is waning. Many young people care more about jobs than ideological land debates. So he says here, as much as people may go still cheer in rallies and things, but they don't care about land, they care more about jobs. The urban poor want housing and working services, not just symbols of redress. The black middle class fears instability more than it craves revolution. The EFF is still selling the same revolutionary product to market that has moved on. Which is true, get this part. He says that the urban want abantu the middle class, they want housing, they want services, and they fear instability. So he says that EFF is still selling the same revolution product, but the market has moved on. So he's saying that EFF is still selling the product of land expropriation without compensation, but the market has moved on, which is the people that we're selling to this land expropriation, they don't care about land. And that market is now more competitive. The ANC has learned how to neutralize the EFF by mimicking its rhetoric with no intention of implementation. Remember when the ANC pretended to amend Section 25? Grand promise like the NHI gives the illusion of transformative while entrenching the status quo. Meanwhile, the MK party under Jacob Zuma has stolen the populist thunder. Where the EFF offers intellectual socialism, MK offers familiar father figures, nostalgia. It's a simple offering, but a relatable one. So he's saying now, one thing that MK is offering is the father figure nostalgia, which obviously we've spoken about this, and it's relatable. Okay, fine. Worse still, the EFF missed the key political openings when anti-immigration sentiments peaked. The party stood by its pan-Africanist, open border stance. Principled, yes, but out of step with much of its own base, while others offered scapegoats, the EFF doubled down on theory. That might win the moral argument, but it loses votes. At its core, the EFF seems trapped in its founding moment, still angry, boisterous, still quoting Fanon and Lenin, still fighting yesterday's battles. Meanwhile, the country has grown more cynical, more desperate, and more hungry for jobs and revolution. The TikTok generation craves novelty, speed, tangible outcomes. The EFF continues to speak the language of long-term struggles in a short attention span world. And this generation and political stagnation becomes even clearer when constrained with figures like Captain Ibrahim Traore in Burkina Faso. Traore's 36-year-old revolutionary is riding a wave of defiance against Western hegemony across global South. His unapologetic break with France, assertive move to reclaim the national sovereignty, and Pan-Africanism, anti-imperialists have captured the imagination of young Africans far beyond his borders. Traore's rise has ignited a sense of possibility, something the EFF once embodied but no longer does. Ironically, Julius Malema is on record condemning the very coup that catapulted Traore to power. Whether out of principle or political respectability, this position now looks profoundly out of step with the revolutionary mood resonating with South African youth online. While Traore rejects French dominance and flies to Russia to break bread with Vladimir Putin, Malema is lamenting on Twitter about how the British denied him a visa to speak to the University of Cambridge. That tweet, meant to showcase fight against imperial gatekeeping, instead revealed how far the EFF has drifted from revolutionary vanguard to politics of elite recognition. The radical, once shut out of parliament, now seeks validation on Oxbridge stages. The contradiction is hard to ignore. The tragedy is that EFF once was necessary. It forced land and ownership into the national conversation. It unsettled the comfortable, but movements that don't evolve become parodies of themselves. The EFF risks becoming that it once opposed, a party that talks over the people and claims to speak for. The EFF needs to confront a bitter truth. It's high time level policies on land nationalization and African unity may be historically justified and ideologically coherent, but politics is not won on theory alone. As Osho once said, democracy is government by the people, for the people, but the people are retarded. If the EFF continues to preach the revolution to a voter base desperate for jobs, economic stability, it will keep losing ground to populists who offer anything that feels immediately real. Notable when the EFF has in fact tried to pivot toward instant gratification politics, it has felt forced and out of touch. Take the promise of basic income grant for graduates, a bold sounding move but a political misfire. In a country where most unemployed youth never attended university, the proposal revealed a kind of intellectual elitism. It prioritized a credentialed minority over the struggling majority instead of expanding its base. The EFF looked out of touch, crafting policy for an imagined constituency rather than the realities of the masses. The EFF has come to valorize education as a marker for political legitimacy, requiring its leader to have advanced degrees, yet in doing so, it seems to forget that most of its supporters never went to university and many didn't finish high school. Instead of expanding its reach, the EFF risks becoming an intellectual club without working class aesthetics, crafting theory-heavy proposals for people who just want food on the table and a job to go. It keeps alienating the poor, offering middle-class solutions to working-class problems. The core issue is this: the EFF still imagines itself at the forefront of a revolution that most people no longer believe in. And unless it evolves both in message and method, it risks becoming exactly what it once rebelled against, a loud voice increasingly ignored. Okay, so I'm gonna read the reply for Dr. Gumani, which is now representing the EFF on this argument. And this person posted this thing on Twitter on this argument. But before I read to Dr. Gumani, someone says, what informs your assertion of many young people care more about jobs than ideological land debates? The urban poor want housing and working services, not just symbols of redress. The black middle class fears instability more than it craves. So this person who just commented here is asking Ubana, what makes you think? Because the argument, young people, they don't care about land. Young people, they want jobs. So he says that the EFF must change its message. EFF must change its message, stop preaching about land, expropriation of land without compensation, and preach jobs, because people need jobs. Fine. Now I think let's get to Dr. Gumani, because this seems like it's going to be such a long video. And I didn't realize that it was going to be this long, but I want to be thorough. And I read this. So Dr. Gumani comes in and says, number one, first, let's begin by acknowledging that what's true and fair in the critique by Sizwe. There is value in honest, robust reflection. The EFF's founding manifesto is clear. This is not a 5-year project. It is a generational mission to dismantle colonial economic structures, to return the land, and to transfer wealth to the majority. That means we must welcome serious engagement even when it's uncomfortable. So Dr. Gumani comes in first and says, Wana, what you're saying is true. But also, you need to understand that the EFF is very clear on its founding manifesto that this is a generational mission. It's not something that we want to do in the 5 years and it's done. It's going to take a long time. Yeah, but ANC has been in power for 30 years. Yeah, well, EFF is only 12 years. And it's so sad that everybody, when they compare things, when they talk about the EFF, they are comparing Julius Malema to Ibrahim Traore like now. But Julius Malema has never been a president. You cannot compare Ibrahim Traore to Julius Malema. He has never been a president. It's such an unfair comparison. Yeah, but compare Ibrahim Traore to Cyril Ramaphosa, to Jacob Zuma, to Thabo Mbeki, to Nelson Mandela, not to Julius Malema. Julius Malema has never been a president. Yeah, so I feel like everybody just expects EFF to be this thing, and EFF has never been in power. But let's continue. Indeed, after the 2024 elections, the EFF itself undertook an internal reflection. The organization noted tactical errors, weaknesses in the organization, and growing complexity of the electoral battlefield, where the left is under attack ideologically, financially, and in the narrative space. So yes, the organization accepts the challenge to evolve. So Dr. Gumani firstly accepts that no, we've also introspected after the 2024 elections. We do see the need to grow, to evolve. We do agree that things are changing in the political landscape. No one can deny that. But he continues and says with Dr. Gumani, but evolution is not abandonment. There's a difference between refining tactics and surrendering strategy. And that distinction matters. Meaning that Dr. Gumani, we need to forget about the land and preach jobs. So Dr. Gumani, we can't abandon our ideology because the political landscape is changing. We cannot abandon it. Yeah, we can change the strategy. He says there's a difference between changing strategy and abandoning your overall ideology. Yeah, but just because the political landscape is changing. Now, about the critique itself, though provoking, yes, but also loaded with assumptions and subtle mischaracterizations that need to be unpacked. Okay? Take the claim that the struggle for land no longer inspires. Says who? kutsho Dr. Gumani. So uthi masuthi usizwe into yakhe kwi-debate yakhe ukuthi land, EFF must stop preaching land. Land no longer expires. It's tired. The youth doesn't care about land and they want jobs. So uthi Dr. Gumani, okay, fine. You are saying the land no longer inspires. Says who? Who says that? Uti, on what basis? No credible study, no data, no ethnography field work is cited. Just anecdotal sentiment dressed up as a fact. Elections in an era of mass abstention and declining legitimacy cannot alone measure belief in revolution. That's not science, it's vibes. Please bear with me, guys, bear with me. Then Dr. Gumani continues and says, and even vibes shift. You only need to raise the issue of land redistribution in a room of young South Africans denied housing, jobs, or dignity to see how alive the wound still is exactly. Just because the pain no longer shouts, it doesn't mean it has healed. So to Dr. Gumani, you just need to raise the issue of land or redistribution to young South Africans who are denied housing, to young South Africans who are denied jobs, to young South Africans that who have lost their dignity, to see that this wound is still alive. The same applies to supposed decline of the 7 cardinal pillars. Have they become abstract, or has the country been so brutalized by hunger, rolling blackouts, and elite theft that it's forgotten to imagine anything beyond the next meal? But that's precisely why we must hold the line. Political conditions may shift, but the revolutionary clarity must endure. We chant land expropriation without compensation for equal distribution and use, not land or death. That is someone else, and I will not say who. Because Sizwe quoted Uguti, the EFF preaches land or death. Uti, no, that's not what we preach. That's not what we preach. We preach land expropriation without compensation, and we preach land equal distribution to everyone. We are not saying land or death. We are not saying we are taking the land or everyone dies. We are saying let the land be redistributed amongst all of us. Not because we expect overnight applause. Because without land, without ownership of the economy, we are stuck in the post-apartheid illusion. Still, the critique raises important questions. Are we doing enough to make the ideology connect with everybody, with the everyday struggle? Are we meeting people where they are? And here the answer must be honest, not always, which is true. But it is wrong to suggest that the EFF is doing nothing. Yeah, so Dr. Gumani, are we doing enough to make sure that our ideology is heard by everyone? We're not doing enough. We are trying though. We can't reach to everybody. We are not always doing enough, but we are trying to make sure that the ideology reaches to everyone. But you can't just simply say the EFF is not doing enough. You just cannot. Measured against what? Uti, in the 7th Parliament alone, number one, the EFF has introduced the bill to scrap student debt, an issue suffocating thousands of youth who can't graduate, work, or progress. Number two, we notified the NEDLAC that insourcing bill is complete and will be tabled, pushing to end labor outsourcing once and for all. Number three, we challenged the illegal adoption of 2025 budget and VAT increase, going as far as court. A big victory for the poor and working class. No opinion pieces about this, which is he has not said anything about this. Funny enough, criticism yak. And this was such a big win for the EFF. Number four, our young MPs are not playing to the gallery, but working in committees on issues like data cost, NSFAS corruption, and municipality failure. This is not abstract theory. It is revolutionary prices in motion. grounded in the lived struggles of our people. Now, Dr. Gumani is also answering Lepis Yoba, the EFF is irrelevant. It's not fighting the daily struggles of today, but stuck in the past. So, Dr. Gumani, by counting these things, good to know. We are fighting for data in Parliament. That is today's struggles. There was no data in 1919, don't. Yeah, but we are fighting for NSFAS. There was no NSFAS then. These are daily struggles. We were fighting for VAT in court. That was not, this is something of today. You are saying we are irrelevant. The EFF has tabled a bill of scrap student debt. That is not something that was happening years ago. It's something that's happening today. So what do you mean when you say the EFF is not fighting for things of today? They're stuck in the past. What do you mean? Okay, so let's get right into it. Okay. Then he says this is not abstract theory. It's a revolutionary praxis. He says, and it is happening not only in Parliament, across municipalities. Fighters are delivering, which is so true. MMC Ramabotu is showing real leadership in waste and services delivery in Tshwane, which is so true. In Johannesburg, Dr. Mchwaku was voted as the best MMC. These are not slogans. They are material improvements led by revolutionaries. These are things that are happening today. In Mpumalanga, the EFF has just blown the lead of a multi-million rand laptop procurement scandal, exposing inflated prices and a irregular tender process that robbed the poor to enrich the connected. That was Dr. Gumani's point number one. That's why I said, please be patient and please bear with me, because I wanted us to get to the gist of everything. That was point number one. Then he said, number two. Hey, Aziche. He said, number two, again, we must ask, why now? Why does this critique surface with such a force precisely when the organization is pivoting, rebuilding, legislating and advancing the struggle in the year of the picket lines, not only against government, but racist neo-apartheid enclaves such as Orania, Kleinfontein? Why cast doubt on ideological pillars just as our opponent intensify their efforts to discredit the left with Donald Trump and Elon Musk money? Dr. Gumani, why now? Why discredit the 7 cardinal pillars when our enemies or Donald Trump or Elon Musk are raising the standards? But when you come and you critique the 7 cardinal pillars, why now? We must be vigilant without being paranoid, but timing matters. On foreign policy and Captain Traore, let's not be baited into binary debates. The EFF is clear. We support the anti-imperialist surge in the Sahel. We have never been against Captain Traore. It's not true. We don't want another Mobutu, Seseko, and we must be unapologetic about that. But we also understand that military coups can and often have installed Western puppets. Nuisance is not cowardice, it's politics. And politics is not performance art for online applause. The assertion of the EFF has drifted, that the EFF has drifted toward elite recognition because the president of the EFF, Julius Malema, was denied a visa to speak at a Cambridge conference organized by students in beneath serious critique. If we are now measuring radicalism by who flies to Moscow and who doesn't, we are not analyzing politics. We are chasing hashtags. It was Black African students, the intelligentsia in making, who invited the commander-in-chief, the best among us, the future, the creme de la creme. Are we now suggesting that we should not attend simply because the event is in the UK? On the idea that we have become a party of middle-class solution to working-class problems, again, partially fair, but overly reductive. The EFF has always valued education, not as elitism, but as empowerment, Requiring qualified leadership is about discipline and rigor, not exclusion. What is even middle class in South Africa? Yes, we must keep grounding our work in the everyday struggles of the poor. But we must also resist the idea that theory has no place in revolution. Without a guiding ideology, movements drift, and when movements drift, capital wins. Helen, guided by her ideology of liberalism, laced with racism, wins. AfriForums wins too. So, Dr. Gumani is also speaking on the fact that the EFF is preaching education. No, we can't shy away from encouraging people and the youth to be educated, to be skilled leaders. Just because we are also leading people who are uneducated, we cannot. We are empowering them by encouraging education. And then he says, finally, let's be clear, no revolutionary party should expect to be loved at all times, especially not one that refuses to sell its souls for votes. However painful this is, if we are ever elected without voters understanding that we truly stand for, the people will turn against us the moment difficulty arises. That's not victory, it's betrayal. So let's debate tactics. Let's sharpen messaging. Let's evolve where needed. But let's not be hungry for approval that we abandoned the struggle foundation. The EFF is barely 12 years, a child, not even a teenager, and yet it has forced the country to confront questions most feared to ask. That in itself is not small feat. Criticism must be welcomed, but we must also ask what the end game of some critics, to refine the moment or to neutralize it. That's the real question to Sizwe. Qhubeka mfowethu, ukuxoxisana okujulile kuyadingeka futhi asikuhlala sivumelana ngaso sonke isikhathi. Ndiko ivala henemfe. I think that's vendor. Guys, I don't understand vendor. So, because this video is so long, I think I've already talked in between. I'm not going to talk much. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think. Oh my God, guys, this is so powerful. Let me know what you guys think, okay? And if you don't know who I am, my name is Isabella Pelwana, and this is Simple Politics. Wow, guys. I read this, and my heart was like literally jumping out of my chest. Anyway, this is such a long video, guys. If you manage to listen to this video till the end, I need you to tell me that Zizi, I watched till the end. Anyway, Aluta continua, the struggle continues. We are on our road to 25k subscribers. So please, please, please share, especially this video. Share this video to the fighters, because this is very important. I'll see you guys on the next one. And shout out to Dr. Gumani Chimamola. Shout out to you, man. Shout out to you. Until the next one.